Let me just explain to you the difference in the abuse and the difference in departments of justice. I mean, we can go all the way back to Republicans having a fit when JFK tried to nominate RFK, his brother, to be Attorney General. But I can actually go back to Joe Biden. Joe Biden indicted his own son. Did he deserve to be indicted? Yes. But he indicted his own son.
You're saying the White House was directing. You're saying the White House was directing indictments. But you're saying they were directing indictments. That's a revelation.
Have one person speak at a time. What were you just?
That's Republican commentator Scott Jennings taking CNN's Barry Sellers to task for what many see as a clear double standard in their coverage of the Comey indictment. For years, major media outlets cheered every investigation aimed at Donald Trump, framing them as a victory for justice. But now that James Comey is reportedly facing legal trouble, the same voices are suddenly calling it political. Welcome back to MN News, and tonight it looks like CNN is in full-on damage control mode. After years of supporting investigations into Trump, their former favorite from the FBI is under fire, and the reactions are nothing short of chaotic. The irony here is hard to ignore. This is the same network that constantly repeated, "No one is above the law." And now, Scott Jennings is doing what he's known for, cutting through the spin and exposing the contradictions live on air.
And put somebody who, I mean, is just simply inept and unqualified to actually have that job.
Well, she was apt and qualified enough to get a grand jury to look at the evidence and return 2 charges against him. Are you saying that this process, which is used all over the country every single day to bring crimes all over the code, is somehow broken? These are ordinary citizens in a liberal jurisdiction who looked at evidence from a prosecutor and said, yeah, it looks like there's something here. Is that not what happened?
Yeah.
Watching somebody like Speaker Johnson normalize that, it sends us down an incredibly dangerous path.
I'm stunned to hear you say we're now worried about normalizing this kind of thing. We had an attorney.
You are about to do right now. Let's hear it.
I'm about to tell you what happened in the state of New York when the Democratic Attorney General ran an entire political campaign promising not to uphold justice, but to prosecute one person, Donald Trump. And I didn't hear a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth among Democrats about normalizing the weaponization of justice.
And what we're talking about is the abuse of the system.
What abuse beyond the idea of prosecuting people when Democrats were going after Trump? Were you worried about abuse?
Because I firmly believe that Donald Trump broke the law and he was indicted.
Do you think the 34 charges that are cited all the time were good?
You know, for years, the same political voices and media allies kept repeating the phrase, "No one is above the law," proudly displaying it on every screen while celebrating every single charge brought against Donald Trump. Yet when the tables turn and James Comey faces serious allegations, suddenly the tone changes. Now it's all political persecution. These are the same figures who looked the other way when Hillary Clinton's team destroyed devices, or when classified files were reportedly discovered in President Biden's garage. But now, accountability somehow feels unfair? The double standard couldn't be clearer. And once again, Scott Jennings cuts through the noise, reminding everyone that the case against Comey isn't being decided in a back room. It's moving through a grand jury made up of ordinary citizens. That's the reality CNN seems desperate to ignore.
Well, look, that's the thing. There's a system, and the system includes grand juries and juries of ordinary Americans who get in a room and make decisions. He can't order people to be indicted, and he can't order people to be convicted. He can express his opinion. In the case of Comey, grand jurors in a very liberal jurisdiction got together and decided that the evidence did warrant charges. Comey will go to trial, and then a jury of his peers will decide whether he is guilty or not. The president can't do anything about that. He can make commentary on it. I'm not sure if it's wise or not wise to do that, or if it will matter at all. But ultimately, I'll just say what Jim Comey said when Donald Trump was indicted. It's a good day for the rule of law because we have a system, and the system is in place, and the system is working as it was designed, with average, ordinary Americans making decisions about how our laws will be enforced.
But you know, you said that he can't actually order the indictment of someone. I think he just proved that he could. I think what he did, the series of events that took place here, we have to actually be clear about what happened, right? He tried to pressure Eric Siebert at the Eastern District of Virginia to pursue this prosecution. He did not. The U.S. prosecutors there said they did not see enough evidence. So he forces him out. He publicly declares to Pam Bondi, you need to target these political enemies, specifically labeling James Comey. And then, right after that, installs Lindsay Halligan, a former insurance lawyer with no prosecutorial experience, to go in there. And then within days, Comey's indicted, even after rank and file prosecutors, they gave her a declination memo that said, this is why we don't think there's enough evidence. So I don't think this is just the process playing out. I think this is Donald Trump explicitly abusing his power and directing a prosecution of a political enemy.
You said we have to be very clear about what happened, and then you left out the most critical part, where a prosecutor has to go into a grand jury, present the evidence, and make the case why charges are warranted. And the grand jury has to agree with that. In this case, they did. Now, I don't know if he'll be convicted or not, but you can't leave out and deny that there's a critical step where average, ordinary Americans get put in a room and they ultimately have to decide, does a case go or does it not go? And then they will decide whether you're guilty or whether you're not guilty. That is an important part of the process that he cannot really alter or change.
You know, Scott Jennings is completely on point. A 23-member grand jury in Northern Virginia, hardly a conservative stronghold, reviewed the evidence and agreed there was enough to move forward with charges against James Comey. That's not political pressure. That's ordinary Americans looking at the facts and deciding the case deserves its day in court. After everything that's unfolded since the Russiagate years and the Mueller investigation, it almost feels like accountability might finally be catching up. But what do you think? Is this a genuine step toward justice and transparency, or just another round of political theater to stir emotions in the media? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It really helps the channel grow. Until next time, this is MN News. Thanks for tuning in.